Hi all and welcome to this video on leadership in sport. So if we have a look at your specification, there's certain things you need to know. So the characteristics of leaders, emergent and prescribed leaders, the different leadership types and the theories of leadership, traits, social learning and interaction approach. We also have to understand Chelladurai multi-dimensional model. So let's start with the different types of leaders. Now there's a range of different leaders in sport. So I'm sure you can pick a load from captains, coaches, vice captains, head physios. There's a range of different leaders. Now it's important you also understand a few different characteristics that make an effective leader. So there'd be things that you may have experienced yourself during your childhood sport. So things like good communication skills, they've got flexible leadership, they might have been good at the sport, experienced at the sport. They might have a clear goal or vision. They might be a good decision maker, someone who's motivated, enthusiastic, or someone who is confident. Now, what you want to be able to do in an exam is to be able to link a few of these different characteristics to what makes an effective leader. Okay, so make sure you've got a few of these different points there. Now also we're going to look at the emergent and prescribed leaders. So emergent leaders, these are the people who come from within the group itself. There might be a team voting in one of the players to be a captain. Okay, and there's a lot of benefits to this because they're more likely to be accepted by the group because they already know the players in the team and they know the group dynamic. And also they have the benefit of understanding how different people communicate within the team because they've already shown their commitment and understanding of the group because they've been part of it. Now there's lots of advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages are that they get a lot of respect very quickly from that group. And they tend to be popular individuals within that group, so they're accepted relatively easily. And other group members are going to feel less threatened because it's not someone coming from the outside into the group, it's someone who's been chosen by them. However, the respect may well be short-lived. Okay? And sometimes having someone who's really familiar to the group can start to build some form of contempt within the group itself. Okay? And they tend to usually be more popular individuals and well-liked. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be well-liked by absolutely everyone within that group. Then we've got prescribed leaders. Now, this is where, for example, a new manager might be appointed from another team. Okay, from the club itself rather than the players are making the decision to appoint that particular leader. And there's a lot of benefits here because they're potentially more objective and possibly more creative. And they may carry more authority than someone who's coming from the group themselves. Now again, we need to know those advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages are that they usually have some sort of externally recognised authority and come with a high status if they're being appointed by the club. And may be able to see problems within the team more objectively than someone maybe who's come up from the team itself. However, it can be slow for teams to accept these particular leaders because they might see him as a threat from someone coming outside of their group potentially. And the new leader doesn't always know the group members and therefore can make incorrect decisions initially. It can affect things like the team performance. Now, we've got all of these different leadership styles to learn about. Autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. So autocratic is where you've got a decisive leader, someone who's clearly got an authoritarian style about them. And they're always task-oriented. Their always main focus is the end result. So they're usually concerned with the task demands of the group, and they don't necessarily take into the opinions, or don't take into account the opinions of everyone else in the group. The focus is going to be on that group performance and achieving the goals that they've been set. Democratic, now these are the people who are sharing decisions. They like to involve the group members in all of the decisions they make. And these people are usually more person orientated. They like to have discussions with people. And they usually work in a lot slower manner than people who are autocratic. And they're more concerned with the interpersonal behaviour of the group members. Finally, we've got laissez-faire approach leaders. Now these are the people where they leave the group to make the decisions. Okay, they give very little feedback and they make very few decisions. They generally just take a back seat and let the group get on with it. Now we also need to know when we need to use each of these different types of leadership. The autocratic style is usually used with beginners, or we can call them cognitive leaders, or if we've got a really large group. Now, autocratic is also great if you've got a dangerous activity. It might be something like rock climbing, or if there's a really complex task. They're also really useful when there isn't much time available and the coach needs to get their point and everything moves across really, really quickly. Now, autocratic leaders are also great if the group itself wants and prefers having an autocratic leader. In particular, male athletes have been shown to much prefer this type of leadership. With democratic leaders, this is where it's best if you've got individual or small groups. And females generally, and older athletes generally prefer to have a democratic leader. They're great for things like simple skills, and experts work really well with democratic leaders because experts have that knowledge and expertise to also bring to the decision-making process. And also it's great if the group itself likes to have a democratic leader themselves. Now, laissez-faire is good in some cases, although it doesn't sound like they do much. It is good if it's used with developing creativity, especially elite performers who can make a lot of their own decisions. There might be an elite athlete as a laissez-faire coach. They might be good with those elite performers. Okay? And it's also good if the leader has full trust in a group for the group to make their own decisions. Now, there's also quite a few theories of leadership that you need to understand on your specification. So the first one we're going to look at is the trait. Remember, traits are things that are stable, like your personality. And this idea of this theory is that leaders are born. They have an innate ability, or they're genetically predisposed to show leadership qualities. And it claims that these leaders can lead in whatever situations that you put them in. So this is really, you are born to become a leader. Social learning theory, however, says that you can learn how to be a leader from watching others and copying their actions. If you think about a lot of good managers, or at the moment, may have always played under a good manager and learned from them. So you probably already learned this in the previous topic about self-efficacy, as known as vicarious learning. They're learning from somebody else. And this does, whereas the last theory took into account it was all genetically born that way, this is more about the environment. So your environment, you learn from that, and that's what makes you an effective leader. Finally, we have the interactionist approach. Now, this is looking at that leaders have certain characteristics or qualities that make them leaders. So they're born with certain characteristics. However, they might only show them in certain situations. And this theory starts to explain how leaders are not leaders in everyday life, but maybe only when they are in a particular situation. And this word interactionist should make the theory quite obvious to you because it shows that they have innate qualities, but the environment also has an impact on their leadership qualities as well. Finally, we're going to move on to Chelladurai multidimensional model of sports leadership. Now, as you can see here, we've got these three parts. We've got the antecedents or the characteristics that affect the behaviour. We've got the leadership behaviour itself, and we've got the consequences. So the more elements of this model that match each other, so you can see these little arrows, the more elements of this model that match each other, the more effective the leadership is going to be. So when a leader is thinking about what behaviours to show, they've got to take into account these different characteristics that affect our behaviour. And the model reflects the most popular theory of leadership, okay, which is that people learn to be leaders through social learning and interaction with their environment. So we're going to have a little look at this model in a little bit more detail now. So if we look here, we've got environmental conditions. So this could be things such as, I don't know, the task difficulty, the group size, the nature of the opposition, all the things in the environment. Okay. Then if we have a look at the leadership characteristics, we're going to be thinking of things like the leader's style, skills, their past experiences, their personality. And when we look at the member characteristics, we're looking more at things like the gender, the skill level of the group, the age of the group. So you've got these three different areas or characteristics that can affect behaviour. Remember, this middle part now is the leader behaviour. So the required behaviour is what should or needs to be done by the leader itself. The actual behaviour is what the leader chooses to do. And the preferred behaviour is what the group wants. Now, the more these all match each other, the more successful that leadership is going to be. Now, if we look at this last part, this performance and satisfaction, there's always going to be good performance and satisfied members occur in the actual behaviour, so this part here, of the leader. So the actual behaviour of the leader matches the required behaviour and the preferred behaviour. So this actual behaviour here in the middle, if it matches the required and the preferred behaviours, then you're going to have good performance. So we look at a practical example here, for example. We've got an under-11 soccer team playing its first match of the season. We've got many new boys to the club, their first experiences, competition. So if we look at the situational characteristics, we might think, as a coach, you don't want to create any pressure to win. If we look at the required behaviour, then the players are going to have to try out skills, practice working as part of the team. Now if we look at the member characteristics, we know they're young, they lack a lot of experience. Whereas we've got preferred behaviours from the coach, we're going to want the coach to be encouraging, to be supportive. Now if we look at that actual behaviour in the middle, if the coach's actual behaviour meets all of these needs here, so it meets the situational characteristics, the required behaviour, the member characteristics, and the preferred behaviour from the coach, then you're going to get high performance and satisfaction. So it's all about those key characteristics here, the situational characteristics, the required behaviour, member characteristics, preferred behaviour. If they match the actual behaviour shown by the coach, you're going to get high levels of performance. If they don't match that and the coach does something that does not match these characteristics, then you're going to get low levels of performance.